So, if you use Sibelius, you already know it's a beast, right? It's an absolute powerhouse. But you've probably had that moment. You know the one. You're staring at the screen thinking, I just wish it could do more. Like, finish this boring task for me so I can get back to the actual music. Well, what if I told you there's a whole universe of hidden potential just waiting for you? Today, we're diving in and uncovering some secret superpowers that are seriously going to change the way you write music.
We've all been there. It's that endless cycle of click, copy, paste, click again, right? Maybe you're trying to slap a cool rhythm onto a different melody, or you're building a worksheet for your students and it's taking forever. Or maybe you're just plain stuck, staring at a blank measure, needing a little spark. You just keep thinking, there has got to be a better way. Well, I've got some really good news for you. There is.
So what are these magical tools I'm talking about? They're called plugins, and the best way to think of them is like little mini-apps, but for Sibelius. What's so cool is that they're built by the Sibelius community. I'm talking about composers, arrangers, and teachers, people just like us, who hit a wall, found a problem, and built a solution, not just for themselves, but for everybody. These plugins basically teach Sibelius a bunch of new tricks, everything from simple time savers to really complex creative transformations.
All right, let's kick things off right where the music starts, with composing. You know, that whole process of getting the ideas out of your head and onto the page? But sometimes that page can stay blank for a little too long, right? Well, this is where plugins can become an amazing creative partner.
I mean, every single composer knows that feeling of being completely stuck. You feel like you're using the same old chords, the same melodic ideas over and over, and you just need something, anything, to shake things up. So, instead of just staring into the abyss of the screen, imagine this. What if you could ask Sibelius to help you generate new ideas right from the music you've already written?
These things are basically compositional power-ups. Take add interval. You can grab a melody and bam, instantly harmonize it with, I don't know, a perfect fourth below every single note. Or invert chords. It lets you take a whole chord progression and just effortlessly create brand new voicings by flipping notes around. And oh man, transform scale? This one is just wild. You can take a simple little melody in C major and in one click hear what it sounds like in Lydian or a whole tone scale. It's just an amazing sandbox for musical exploration.
And you know what the best part is? You're not having to learn some complicated new software. It's usually just a few simple steps. You select your music, you find the plugin, you tell it what you want, like, hey, give me a major third above this, and boom, Sibelius does all the heavy lifting. Now, this isn't about letting the computer write the music for you. Not at all. It's about turning it into a faster, more collaborative partner in your own creative process. But here's a cool twist. These plugins aren't just for creating new music. You can use them for some seriously deep analysis. I'm talking about tools like Find Range Plus that can literally break down the stats of a masterpiece, the highest note, the lowest note, the most common intervals. You can actually take a MIDI file of a Bach piece, run this plugin, and see the musical DNA of his work laid out in front of you. And then you can compare it to your own stuff. It's an incredible way to learn directly from the greats.
Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about arranging and orchestrating. If composing is all about that initial spark of an idea, arranging is often about the, let's be honest, the painstaking work of making that idea work for a whole group of musicians. And that's where being efficient is absolutely everything.
Seriously, if you're an arranger, just think about it. How much of your time is eaten up by those manual, repetitive tasks? You know, unfolding repeats, creating cues, trying to figure out how many violins you need for that divisy section. It all has to be done, but it's not exactly the fun, creative part of the job, is it? This is exactly where plugins become an arranger's absolute best friend.
Okay, just look at this. This is the Paste Rhythm to Pitches plugin, and it's awesome. On the left, you've got a simple melodic line, just some whole notes. On the right, that exact same line is now dancing to a super complex rhythm that you just had copied. So imagine you've got this great horn melody and this killer rhythm from the drum part. Instead of rewriting the whole horn part note by note with the new rhythm, this plugin does it for you in a single click. It is an absolute game changer. Seriously.
And that's just the start. Here's a quick look at your new arranging toolkit. Unfold repeats. This one takes your whole score with all the DS codas and all that and just writes it out linear, from start to finish. It's so good for making backing tracks or mock-ups. Add cue notes. This just makes one of the most boring parts of making instrumental parts way, way easier. And players required is just brilliant. It looks at a section of music and tells you the absolute minimum number of players you need to play all the notes. Perfect for when you're writing those really dense string parts. All right, now let's pivot to something completely different but just as powerful: music education. With plugins, Sibelius stops being just a notation program and becomes this incredible dynamic platform for creating custom teaching materials that can really get your students excited.
Every music teacher out there knows this struggle, right? You have this great idea for a sight reading exercise or a custom ear training test, or maybe a fingering chart for your trumpet players, but making that stuff from scratch takes hours. Hours you'd rather be spending actually teaching. Well, plugins can automate so much of that creation process for you.
So check this out. There's this plugin called Use Shape Notes for Accidentals. And the story behind it is that a piano teacher figured out his students learned to sight read way faster when sharps and flats had their own unique shapes, like a triangle for a sharp, for example. So this plugin was created, and now you can instantly convert any piece of music to use that system. How cool is that?
Or how about ear training? You know how tedious it is to type out all the solfege syllables? Well, the solfege plugin does it for you, automatically. It'll add do, re, mi under all the notes, and it even uses a movable do system based on the key. I mean, doing that by hand is just painful, but the plugin? Instant.
And honestly, the list just keeps going. There are plugins that help you build quizzes, plugins that put the note names right inside the note heads for young beginners, and even plugins that will generate fingering charts for a trombone or a tin whistle. It's this huge library of tools, all designed to solve the real problems that music teachers run into every single day.
Okay, so at this point you're probably thinking, wow, this is amazing, but where on earth do I even begin? And yeah, it can seem like a lot, but getting started is actually super easy. So let's just break down the first few steps you need to take to unlock all this.
Think of this as your plugin starter kit. First, everything you need is on the official Sibelius plugin download page. It's all right there. Pro tip for you, search for plugins by a guy named Bob Zawalich. He's basically a legend in the community and has made hundreds of these amazing tools. Installing them is a breeze. Sibelius has a built-in installer, so you just point it to the file you downloaded. Honestly, my best advice is to just start exploring. Pick a category that sounds cool to you, like composing tools or text, download one or two that catch your eye, and just play around with them. See what they do.
Because at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. Plugins change Sibelius from just being a piece of software you use into a creative partner that you actually collaborate with. They get rid of the boring stuff, they spark new ideas, and they just make your whole process smoother. So the only real question is, once you have these new superpowers, what are you going to create?